Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Todd and Megan Talk D&D, and today we're going to be using some wonderful Dwarven Forge terrain so that Todd can show us how he might creatively navigate Catapult through this setting.
Yeah, so Catapult is one of those exceptionally weird spells that can have a lot of different uses in D&D, and we're using Dwarven Forge terrain to kind of demonstrate that. And Catapult is a first level transmutation spell that can take any object that's like 1 to 5 pounds, and the range on this is 60 feet, but then it will shoot that object in a straight line up to 90 feet. Mm-hmm. And if you shoot it at like your group of monsters, they need to make one of them, they need to make a dexterity saving throw or get hit. The first thing or creature that fails its dexterity saving throw causes that object to stop, and then it does 3d8 bludgeoning damage, and this scales up if you cast it at higher levels. What's interesting is this is kind of like a save or nothing kind of spell. For this example, we are using a ton of kobolds because there's a new dragon book coming out in D&D. I'm very excited. Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. So say you've got like a cavern full of kobolds. Well, you can shoot an object, like some debris that you find in that dungeon, down that hallway, and one of them is going to fail their dex save. This is also effective, like if you have like a group of heroes, I'm saying, that are in a tight space, right? And you shoot it, like one of them, like what's the ethics of succeeding your dex save so someone behind you gets hit, right?
Well, normally the idea is if you're tanking or trying to protect your friends, you jump in front of them, right, to save them. But in this situation, if you fail,
well, I mean, I think
it's going to be the person behind you who takes it.
As the dungeon master, I would let the player decide to fail their dex save so that they would take that brunt of the damage.
That's nice of you.
Thank you. What's interesting is that it just says that you can determine that it goes in whatever direction you want to. And again, the range is 60 feet, but then when it shoots, the range is 90 feet for where it travels. Mm-hmm. So that means you can kind of shoot around corners. So as I'm kind of showing on Dwarven Forge right now, you have like, some debris, rocks, some treasure, and you can hear like a bunch of kobolds down the hallway, down the cavern. You can just say, okay, I know the basic layout of this cavern. I'm just going to shoot this object without ever seeing these kobolds or this enemy directly sideways. Mm-hmm. And then it just will hit one of them, and you are not a target. They can't see you.
So with the catapult spell, do you have to know the area to know like what direction it's going to go in? Or
you don't need, no, not at all. You can just determine it. So like if you got like an open door and you hear like, creatures coming down, the way, mm-hmm. you probably know. It's probably a good idea. Let's shoot a catapult down there. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah.
Let's at least murder one of them.
Bowling for kobolds.
Yeah. So it's a weird spell that allows you to shoot around corners if you're effective. But it says specifically any object between 1 to 5 pounds. As you scale this spell up, as you cast it at higher levels, the weight increases. So there's a lot of nasty things you can do with this spell. What is, like, say, your character Whittle a big fan of? What have you launched with Catapult?
Oh, so many things.
Right.
But one of my favorite things that I've launched with Catapult are dead bodies full of alchemist fire.
Right. So, alchemist fire. You, as a dungeon master, I would absolutely, if you own alchemist fire or acid or anything like that, I would absolutely let you determine that that's the object and you shoot it at that target. And if it hits that target, then they're covered in alchemist fire.
Which is so much fun because it is a breakable object.
It's a breakable object. You make sure it's in a glass flask, and then you cause trouble. There's some other spells you can layer onto this. I would also let someone, if they really wanted to, and this is kind of high risk, high reward kind of scenario, but if you had a party member who was going to cast Catapult, and then you had another spellcaster who was like, I want to ready my action. I want to hold my action and ready a spell like heat metal. I would allow them to heat metal when that object hit the target or any target. So say you took like just a big lead ball, right? And you shot that at something. I would let someone else, the moment that hit the target, cast heat metal on that, do another 2d8 fire damage, and that also scales in level. So now you're doing a lot of damage.
So what are some things that you would allow a player to use with Catapult?
So I would use it for non-combat reasons, like a grappling hook. You just shoot the grappling hook over a castle wall, and then that's done. Some nastier stuff is, imagine you and another monster or another creature or whatever are trying to get a relic or some kind of important item. Just cast Catapult on it. Shoot it 90 feet your way. Mm-hmm. It's not anywhere near them now. Mm-hmm. You know, you've literally moved this important item way away from them. Now, nastier stuff is spells like command or suggestion, or like where like you could command someone drop your weapon. Cool. So someone casts that, they drop their weapon, and then another party member casts Catapult and has that weapon fly away, or hit another creature that's an enemy, or hit that creature who dropped their own weapon. You could kill somebody with their own sword.
Wow, that's harsh.
Yeah, so you could disarm someone quite effectively with that tactic. If you're working with a fighter battlemaster and they do the disarming maneuver, they knock the weapon out of their hand, and then you cast Catapult, no more weapon for them. Mm-hmm. Could be a really important magical weapon. Or someone's spell focus, or all kinds of stuff. Now, some other kind of chicanery I would probably try is, since it's an object that I can determine, again within 60 feet of me, and any direction it goes. Well, why not have like a knife that's it can't be worn by anybody, but say there's a guard there and there's a weapon, or someone in the crowd, you could have like a dagger or a piece of rock fly from their vicinity and hit another person like the town guard. Mm-hmm. They're going to clock where it came from and head this way and think that person is the one who hit them.
Very clever.
So you could cause a fight, mm-hmm. or you could cause a significant distraction. Like imagine you create a silent image and you planted a weapon near that silent image and you're away in the shadows. And then you just have a weapon, like a crossbow bolt, shoot out from that silent image, mm-hmm. from that direction. And then they think that was the thing that caused that attacked you. And then they run that way, and then maybe they're not guarding that area anymore, and you can sneak past them.
And then, depending on how much weight a catapult can actually throw, if you happen to steal Strahd's throne, maybe you could catapult that at Castle Ravenloft and add insult to injury.
That is a good way to start a fight. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great way to continue a fight also.
Yeah, it's a great way to continue a fight. I love using Dwarven Forge for examples, and this is like very effective to show off how spells work. And you and I have both learned actually having miniatures and mini terrain really helps spellcasters figure out what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I think more than anything else. It's kind of fun to realize like what the radius of the spell is.
Having that visual aid, I feel like you get the full benefits of your spell.
Yeah, and stuff like Dwarven Forge is absolutely nuts.
The level of detail in texture is incredible.
Yeah.
I actually want to go to this place.
So we will have a lot more videos talking about certain spells in D&D and kind of demonstrating that with minis and mini terrain from Dwarven Forge to kind of show you like what is interesting about some of these spells.
Is there any kind of flavor that you can add to the catapult itself? Like I know that it's magical, but could you describe it as being a magical catapult? Like if you touch it, your hand just goes through it.
Right. It would be kind of cute to have like this kind of spectral catapult actually show up underneath the object before it fires. I think if you're playing a more whimsical character, I think that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Yeah,
I think that would be really cool. Or even if you're like an artificer turned wizard who still very much has that gnome engineer flair.
Yeah.
You can flavor it as being, smoke billowing out of magical gears and engines. As soon as it flings whatever you have in it,
or
it suddenly disappears.
Or something ridiculous like a cannon, a spectral cannon shows up and shoots it out.
Yeah, perfect.
I would opt for the more stealthy stuff with this, but again, great spell. In the hands of a good player, and it's one of those spells I think are a lot easier to use if you have mini terrain in your head. Because
Is there any
you
way-
can kind of like look at the terrain and be like, okay, I know what I can do here.
If you all get an opportunity to use Dwarven Forge for Catapult and other spells, please let us know if there's any interesting flavors that you have used on them and what you used it against. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Megan and Todd Talk D&D, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.